Greetings and welcome, friends. Mr. Waddy here. You are with me in a brand new chapter. We are in chapter 4, friends. This is amazing. I love it. Hopefully, you are super familiar with slope-intercept form because previously on Lost is kind of what like they say on the TV show Lost sometimes. Previously, I would give you the equation of a line in slope-intercept form. You would have discerned what the slope and the y-intercept were, and then you were able to graph it. Today, we're going to be doing that same thing, but in reverse, okay? So you are going to try to, I'll give you some clues, and then you're going to solve the mystery of which line am I talking about. Can you narrow it down to one equation? And so just like some sort of crime scene investigator, some forensic scientist, you are going to get the DNA of the line, which are the slope and the y-intercept, and then try to identify which equation that DNA belongs to. All right, so slope-intercept form was the equation of a line. Lines have a constant rate of change, and slope-intercept form is of the form y equals mx plus b, in which the y and the x represent all combinations of x and y that make the equation true. So those are the ordered pairs, the points on the line. The m is a constant which represents the slope, which you guys know that. And the b is the y-intercept, right? B is the y-intercept, right? The y-int. And so that's where the line crosses the y-axis. If you want to think about it as a point, you could think about it as 0, comma, b, because the y-intercept will have 0 as its x-coordinate. So here we go. Here's a problem. They say write the equation of each line with the given slope and y-intercept. So I've got some clues. I've got some DNA here. I know that m is equal to -3. And I know that b is equal to 1/2. That's weird. The fraction one is usually the slope. But there do exist points on the y-axis that are fractions. So that's okay. So let's write the equation in y equals mx plus b. So this is going to be y equals -3x plus 1/2. Da-da-da-da. We just solved that mystery. You're going to jail for a long time, you line equation, right? We figured it out. All right, so here's another one. Oh, guys, this is even more curious. Curiouser and curiouser. The slope is 0, so m is equal to 0, and the y-intercept is negative dose, so b is equal to -2. If I want to plug those numbers in for the m's and the b's, I'm going to end up getting y equals 0x minus 2, or just y equals -2. Now, y equals -2, in case you don't recall, is the equation of a horizontal line. Yes, a horizontal line. A slope of 0 would suggest the line is horizontal. Let's see, just so that we're super awesome at this, we're going to jump down to the, what are these called? Monitoring progress questions. So I've kind of rearranged the order if you happen to be following along with a physical book or a PDF of sorts, just so we can make sure. So let's see. All right, slope, y-intercept. Can one of you guys help walk me through this problem? Let's see. Or maybe I'll do a roundabout. Let's see. So Kayla, they said the slope is 7. What does that mean for my line? Is that y, is that x, is that m, or is that b? Right, that's going to be, so the y equals 7. 7 is going in the m slot. I agree. All right, they said the y-intercept is 2. So Tyler, what do I call that 2 in my equation? Y equals mx plus b. Which letter does that 2 represent? Yeah, the b equals 2. All right, and in y equals mx plus b, let's see, Micaiah, do you think you'd be able to plug that information in and write the equation? It'd be y equals what? 7x plus 2. I love it. We're done. Man, this is great. This is great. Don't you like it when like the math is just not super crazy and it's just like, okay, it's starting to click for me. Also, look at these beautiful colors. Lovely. All right, let's see, Austin. what does this 1/3 mean? Which variable in the y equals mx plus b does that refer to? The w? Like more like upside down dubs. M is equal to 1/3 right there. Let's see. Okay, Kayla, what's the -1 mean? Yeah, so you're already writing the equation. You're like, you solved this mystery already. So you said y equals 1/3 x minus 1. Now, in terms of fractional slope, just a little side note that I'll show you. 1/3 in front of the x is the same as 1 times x over 3 is the same as x over 3. And these are not the same as 1 over 3x. Okay? So this one, I just want to point out, like, is super illegal. All right? No. All right, so when you're writing your slope, just try to make sure that your x doesn't get so low that it appears to be in the denominator of your slope. Okay? That's okay. Fortunately, my wedding photo has fallen before, and it no longer has any glass for the frame. So problem solved. Yeah, there was a little bit of a breeze. It knocked it right off. I'll just throw that right over here. There we go. Problem solved. We solved the problem solved. Anyone know that? It's from the TV show Peg Plus Cat, which is also conveniently about math. I'm sure the users of my channel might be aware of Peg Plus Cat. Although I'm usually teaching like high school level math, and Peg Plus Cat is probably more like preschool, early elementary. But that's fine. Actually, my son, who's 5, I've shown him some of my math videos, so there you go. So maybe he'll get the reference. Isn't that right, Everett? Yeah, him and I are laughing. But anyways, here we go. Example 2. This mystery just got deeper. There's a crime spree, and I think some equation of a line is the culprit. So this says, write an equation of each line in slope-intercept form. So guys, here's this mystery. This line went in this direction. It passed through those points. I want to find the equation. I'm looking for 2 things. I need to find the m. Actually, I'll write that down here. I need to find the m, and I need to find the b, the y-intercept. Does anyone have a suggestion as to how I could find the slope of this line? Now, I know, Tyler, you were working with some con the other day. Do you have some clues? How did con help you out? Do you remember? What was the first thing you were doing? Austin. Okay, so you were finding where the y-intercept was first. Okay, so this crosses the axis at -3, so b equals -3. And then figuring out how it moves to the next point. Is this the only next point that I could have picked, everybody? Is there another good point that I could have looked at to find the slope? Yeah, this one, I think this is the 2 you're referring to. Right, this one is right in the crosshairs. It's on the grid. That's called a lattice point. So in cons problems, which we'll be doing later today, that's the first thing you're going to do is find out where does my line cross my grid, okay? And so you'll find a series of those, and then we want to figure out how does it move to get there. So this is going up 3 and over 2. So my slope is going to be 3 over 2, 3/2. Now, if I didn't notice this point and I just wanted to go right to that one, I could have gone up 6, right, and over 4. And notice that 6 over 4 does reduce to 3 over 2. So those are actually talking about the same slope. Those are proportional to one another. But 3 over 2, I think, is easier. And either way, you should reduce it. So what is the equation now that I know the m and the b? Y equals what? 3/2. Let's see, 3/2 x, don't forget your x. And instead of writing plus -3, which is mathematically understood, we could write that as just -3, because I'd rather have fewer symbols if possible. Mathematicians are efficiently lazy people, and I'd want to find a quicker way to do it. Now, yeah, so this isn't bad. So I want to just point out for the y-intercept, notice that the x coordinate is 0 for any y-intercept. Okay, so if one of those points happens to have a 0 for the x-coordinate, that b should just be like, that's the b, I found it, right? So just pay attention to that. That's how we can figure that out. Also, if I couldn't read the slope off of the graph for some reason, you could also have referred to the slope formula, m is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And so I'm just going to also show that and show you that it would have gotten the same point. So if I called this x2 and y2, and this was x1 and y1, I just want to point out that that also would have worked. I would have gotten m equals 3 minus -3, right? y2 minus y1 over 4 minus 0. And notice what this simplifies to become. 3 minus -3 is positive 6 over 4, and that still gives me the same slope. So if you, for some reason, couldn't remember how to read the slope off the graph using rise and run, your slope formula, when plugging in your points, will still work just a-okay. All right, this next one, let's do a lot quicker. Maybe the y-intercept's the easier one to find first. Does anyone see the y-intercept for this part B? Yeah, just plain old 2. Where does it cross the y-axis? At 2. Also, notice those deceptive, devious equation graph drawers. This scale... Oh, wait a minute. No, I was wrong. I thought the scale was counting by 2s, and then it wasn't. They were only labeling every other one. So this does, in fact, count as 1 and 1. Okay, all right. All right, you almost got me there, but then it turned out you weren't so devious after all, book. All right, so does anyone know how to find the slope? Let's see. Let's see, right here. Well, right there, that doesn't cross the grid for the, yeah. I'd rather not use a point that doesn't cross the grid perfectly. Like I need it to hit one of those plus signs right in the crosshairs. So how could I move from this point to this point? What's the rise over run? Well, I can't rise to get to that point. Let's see, down 2 over 3 actually would have gone off of the line. But if I want to get to this point, let's go down 3 to get to the level of that point, right? So down 3 and over how much? 4. Yeah, those slopes are actually close to each other. If I had -2 over 3, right? Like it's close, but it would get further and further off from my equation as time goes on. Let's see, y equals -3/4 x plus 2. I like it a lot. I like it a lot. Let's see. All right. So I took some time explaining those ones, but let's do the other ones here. Problems 3 and 4 from the monitoring progress, which I believe you guys have on your worksheet. All right, so same mystery. I'm looking for the M, I'm looking for the B. Austin, could you tell me the M or the B for this line? Which one? Yeah, either one. Let's see, I think B is easier to find. B is our y-intercept. You have an idea of where this crosses the y-axis? At the 1, perfect, bam, B equals 1, done. All right, slope is a little bit trickier. Now I've got this point, they gave me that point, so I could just use that rise and run, but it looks as though it crosses the grid there, it crosses the grid there, it crosses the grid there, and I can actually find the slope between any of those points. So I think I'm seeing this up 1 over 2, thank you, yeah. m equals 1/8. And now that I've got my clues together, I found the DNA, I can accuse y equals 1/2 of x plus 1 as being the line that made this graph. You're the culprit. The evidence points towards you. There's only one equation that makes that line, and it is you, my friend. Ha ha. Yeah, check it out. Up to and over 4 is probably the one that the book was expecting us to have. And m equals 2/4. That reduces, because 2 goes into 2 once and into 4 twice, it still reduces to 1/2 slope. Yeah, so you should still always reduce your fractions. And my man Sal Khan can help you out. Just search like simplifying fractions on Khan Academy, and that might be something to practice in case that's a skill that you need to remember. Let's see, question 4. Tyler, give me the slope or the y-intercept. Let's see. Either one, whichever one you want, M or B. Yep, y-intercept is -1, right? Where does it cross the y-axis? So B equals -1. Let's see. To find the slope, as far as points that cross the grid, all right, Austin is saying down 2, it's a negative slope, and over 5. I like it. And I do want to point out that you could have used those coordinates with the slope formula and gotten the same thing. So m equals -2/5. I found the DNA. Let's accuse the culprit here. Y equals -2/5 x minus 1 is the equation of that line. Now, once I have an equation, I want to point out that you can now make predictions using this equation. Let's say, what if I wanted to find out what are the coordinates of this point? What if I said, what is y when x is 4? All right. Now, you might have been able to like guess and just be like, I don't know, that kind of looks like, I don't know, it's going to be like -2.5 or something like that. You guys see that? If I wanted to like guess the coordinates of that point. But now that I have the equation, I actually could plug in 4 for x, right? I could actually say y equals -2/5 times 4 minus 1. Wow, this sure is going to be a fractionally problem here. -2 times 4 is -8/5. Minus 1, I'd have to find a common denominator with 5. Wow. So I'd multiply by 5 over 5. This is tricky. What do you guys think it's going to be here? So equals -8/5 minus 5/5. That's becoming more negative. So that's going to be -8 and 5 combined are 13/5. So that's the y value when x is 4. And -13/5, if I write that as a mixed fraction, 5 goes into that twice with 3 remaining, -2 and 3/5. So that's the same as -2.6. Okay, so that means 4 comma -2.6 is the exact value of that point right there. So instead of trying to roughly read it off the graph, once I have an equation, I can find exact values and make those predictions. Okay, all right, here we go. Last example, example 3. And then we'll have some time to practice here. You don't? Did I mess up? Uh-oh. Did I skip example 3? Oh, no. Example 3. Oh, dear. You guys have that big blank space right there. So you could at least write down example 3. That, by the way, like I wish I could just pretend like, oh, these are fill-in-the-blank notes. I planned that on purpose. But that is not the case. That was just like a fumble right there. But that's okay. Fortunately, this problem doesn't have a graph, so it'll be real easy for us to do. So guys, we've got even less information for us to do this. even less. Like, I don't have a graph to go off of. Man, I've got to find the slope in the y-intercept. It's still the same. You do? You were kind of describing this earlier in class today, I think. Does anyone know which of those points represents the y-intercept, Kayla? Yeah? Or maybe you were going to go for the slope, whichever one I'm fine with. Okay, I think you're describing using the slope formula to find the slope. Right? So if I label this x1, y1, and x2, y2, I can find my slope because I don't know how to rise and run. I don't have a picture. Oh dear. Oh dear, Austin, what do I do? So we just plug it into slope formula. All right, so m is going to equal -1 minus 5 over 0 minus -3. So that's becoming more negative. So that's -6. And 0 minus a -3 becomes +3. And what does that reduce to? 6 divided by 3 is 2, and it's negative. So I just found my slope. M equals -2. Now, does anyone see the B here? This problem, they gave you a better clue than you could have gotten. The -1 and -5 is -6. They became more negative. So adding two negative numbers becomes more negative. I was just plugging them in this way. So I did -1 there and 5 there. You could have called this point 2. All right, and this point 1. Actually, I'll do that real quick just to show you. I could have said, actually, let me undo my red marks there. M equals, I could have said 5 minus -1 over -3 minus 0. And it should end up giving me the same outcome. 5 minus -1 is 5 plus 1, which is 6. -3 minus 0 is -3. And 6 divided by -3 is still -2. So it doesn't matter which point you call point 1 and point 2 or point 2 and point 1, but as long as you're consistent, it will work out. Does anyone know how to solve the mystery for the missing B? What's the y-intercept? Well, it's not 0. I've got two y coordinates here, but there's no guarantee that either of them are the y-intercept unless one of them has an x coordinate that is 0. So in this case, B is going to be -1 because the x coordinate is 0. All right, let me just scroll back up and show you on the graph. Right, notice the y-intercept always had a 0 for its x coordinate, right? So anytime you have a point with 0 as an x coordinate, you know that it's on the y-axis. The same thing with further up here. Notice x coordinate is 0 for any y-intercept. So now if I don't have the picture to refer to, I can still find the y-intercept by looking at that point. All right, so now that I have m and b, I can write the equation y equals -2x minus 1. Da-da-da-da. All right, let's do this last one super quick. I'm gonna just fly through this one. You ready? All right, I'm gonna call this x1, y1, x2, y2. Let's find the slope. M is gonna equal y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Oh, wow. Let's simplify that. There's like a lot of minus signs there. -5 minus a -5 is the same as +5. Okay, 8 minus 0 is 8. What's -5 plus 5? 0, and 0 divided by anything is 0. My slope is 0, right? So I'm going to say m equals 0. Anyone know what my y-intercept is? No? This is -5, yeah, because it has 0 as the x coordinate. And so my equation will be y equals 0x minus 5, or better yet, well, let's just call that y equals negative 5, because 0 times anything is 0. All right, thank you for watching, Internet friends, mis amigos de el Internet. See?